My name is Era, and I'm the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast. I chat with creators from all over the world to share their stories and discuss hot topics in a way that I hope inspires, educates, and entertains you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tamil Creator. I'm your host, Era. Today, I have a very special guest. You might have read her interview on tamilculture.com. Her name is Shanghavy. I'm going to mess up her last name, but Karunakaran. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Karunakaran. Yep.
Okay. And she is a senior consultant at IBM. And she also has this really interesting side hustle of providing career coaching and resume reviews to her growing list of clients. I just found that combination interesting because as we were chatting before this, I told her I think one of the greatest inflection points in somebody's life is getting help or just finding that thing that you want to do in terms of a job. And if you happen to love it, it's not really a job. So even better. So Shanghavy, thanks for jumping on.
Well, thank you so much, Shara, for having me. I'm just excited to be on your podcast and talk to you and just maybe share some conversations that people might enjoy.
I think people are going to really learn from your experience. I think the written interview, it's really limiting kind of in written form. I think when they hear, and you're very well spoken as well. So I think people will kind of get to hear and learn. As I was speaking, because Shanghavy actually told me your age before this. I won't say both of our ages, but I just thought of it like we're actually 10 years apart, which is crazy. I feel really old. So I won't say either of our ages for that reason. But Shanghavy, why don't we kind of, start at the beginning, because I feel like as I'm like a relatively new parent, and I think about kind of how early childhood kind of really impacts where you are today, just kind of how you think, resiliency, all this stuff. How did your childhood or like your formative teenage years play in a part in you kind of, you're kind of this again, I go by social media, but I do actually believe it. I think you're like this go-getter. You have this, really good career at IBM. You're also helping others find their dream careers with your side hustle. And you have this passion for community building and women empowerment. So tell us kind of how your childhood played a part in that.
Yeah, I can start off by saying that I come from a single parent family. So growing up, it was just me, my mom, and my two younger siblings. And I feel like when you grow up in a single parent household, there are some differences and a lack of privileges that you don't really get from a two-parent household. And a lot of the time, I just saw my mom go through a lot of hardship to, just provide for us. It's not easy. I mean, with one being a double parent family, coming from a double parent household, it's hard enough. So with just one person having to take care of everything was definitely a roller coaster ride. And I feel like that experience at a young age really gave me a sense of responsibility that I am responsible for my life. And, one day if something, God forbids, happens to my lovely mother, like who's going to take care of us and me and my family? And so just that understanding that life is so short and it's really up to me to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and to be able to take care of myself and be someone that can really carry herself in any situation or in any room. That was something that I learned quickly at a young age. And having younger siblings too, I feel like that taught me a lot of responsibility, like being able to take care of them and be the older figure that they need when they're going through life. So I feel like being the eldest child in a family and just coming from a single parent family, it just kind of shaped me up to be a little, have some sort of resilience and tenacity in life. Yeah.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 younger siblings.
2. Yeah, I'm a fellow oldest child, so I
understand.
Yes. People think we're serious, but obviously you had a definitely different set of circumstances than I did. But I feel like as the oldest, you just kind of learn responsibility at such a young age, and you even like at a younger age. As a double parent household, I can't imagine like one parent taking care of like one child, let alone 3. Kudos to your mom for doing that. Like, there's a couple NBA players who like really like they came from large families, single parent, and like they always give a shout out to their like I think in those cases their mom was a single parent and they call her the MVP for a reason because it's it's really, really hard. No days off, so kudos to your mom.
No, and I feel like just having a strong mother figure in the family kind of made me realize, hey, there are some like opportunities that are not always accessible towards women, and sometimes things can be harder. And I think that's where it sparked my passion to speak up for women and just talk about some challenges that we go through. I think it started at a young age. I wasn't probably consciously aware of it, but now when I reflect back, I can see how having a strong mother figure kind of has brushed upon me in so many ways. And it's something that I'm passionate about because it hits home. So that's something that sticks with me.
When
Yeah.
you reflect back on your childhood, when you're in living kind of that reality, you don't think of it because you're experiencing challenges and maybe seeing your peers get things or opportunities that you don't because of, maybe financial resources or just some other reason related to being in a single parent household. But now looking back and reflecting, do you see some of those, do you want to call it shortcomings at that time, actually be a source of strength or something that helped fortified you as a person to like who you are today?
Yeah, I'm grateful for the circumstances that happened in my childhood and the family situation that I came through, because the person I am today is exactly the result of those situations occurring the way it did. And like just being able to, earn things on my own two hands with my own 2 feet, it's nothing was really provided to me. And I've had the fun of learning how to navigate situations, institutions, people, like all these things are firsthand experience that I get to learn on my own terms. And yeah, it's nice to like, maybe have some support and someone maybe like show you the path, but there's power when you forge your own path, and it gives you confidence. And I feel like that's one thing that I carry with me no matter what situation I am, is the confidence to overcome anything. And that really comes from my childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned in your interview, like you're kind of, I guess, understating the difficulties you went through, which is like you mentioned you actually lived in a women's shelter, you visited
Mm-hmm.
food banks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at that time, did you realize what kind of situation you were in, or was it just kind of, you didn't really have time to think about that? It was more so, let's survive, let's get to the next day, or yeah.
I knew it was different because like, everyone else goes home. We're going to a shelter, like, and like, I still remember that night, like just packing up from that household or apartment that we lived in to a shelter, and this is our new spot. Like, what is this new? It's like my environment has always been changing at a young age. And maybe that taught me the ability to adapt to new things really quickly and not be afraid of new things, because just at a young age, I've been in so many situations. And yeah, like a women's shelter is so new to me, and meeting other children too that were, the same situation, going to daycare and little like, things with them, that taught me some things as well, how to socialize with other people. But I feel like that situation also impacted me in a strange way, where I became very introverted. I didn't know how to talk to my friends or my peers, or I didn't really know how to talk to anyone actually about like, hey, I'm just now living in this place and this is our situation. It's just me and my mom, and our shelter too, like there's no TV, like your friends are all watching TV shows, and like there's no such thing as TV, cable, none of that. We're like sleeping on a bunk bed, and it was just hard to relate to people because nobody in my classroom was in that situation. So that kind of turned me into very much of a timid, shy introvert, because I didn't know how to relate to other people. um, but I think overall, throughout some further experiences that I had throughout my university days, that kind of pushed me back into more of a social, extroverted, ambivert kind of person.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, like kind of jumping ahead to, a very unique like childhood, difficult childhood, but you managed to kind of go through university, and then now, in the last few years, you've been part of IBM, and we had this conversation beforehand as well, which is in the tech world, there's this misconception that IBM isn't as innovative as like the Googles, Amazons, or like because of kind of the glamorization of startups, entrepreneurship, working at a big company is no longer kind of seen as a good opportunity. But reflecting back, I think it actually is a great opportunity, especially when you're young. And I'll let you kind of answer this question, but it's just like, I wish I took advantage of opportunities to like say travel, like to conferences or like learning opportunities or just things that at big companies that are much easier to do than at a smaller company. So yeah, I guess what gets you excited about being at IBM, and like what have you kind of learned or taken away from your experience so far?
Yeah, I feel like experiences, like sometimes we can like make an assumption that this experience might be more valuable than another, but honestly, like when I think of the big picture, every experience is so unique and so important to setting you up for where you need to be. And so it's hard to compare and say this experience thing or working at this would be nicer, cooler, and maybe that is not. It's just all relative and subjective. So it's to me like this experience is so valuable, and who knows, with this experience like I could take it and do something else. And specifically with IBM too, it's like in the world of technology, it's like the grandfather of what we have today, of the fan community that we have today. So just being at a company that has been centuries in the tech industry as one of the giant leaders, and not only that, it's multinational. Like in every like big country there is like an IBM hub, and people from all around the world that work at IBM. And so when you work at such a multinational large scale company, the opportunities you have are endless. So one of the things that I've been able to do is travel now through work, and one of our clients is in Texas. So I've been able to fly back and forth and have that experience while I'm working. And these experiences are just they're rare, they're unique, but it's more prevalent and available at a larger firm than it would be at a smaller institution. So I love working at big institutions because they have the resources and the capabilities to make these unique opportunities happen for you. And I happen to be at one, and I'm just reaping everything it has to offer.
What do you do? Like, so I know you're a consultant at IBM. So like, what
Mhm.
exactly do you do? What do you work on? Especially like, I think of startups, but like in a big company, especially as a female, a young female, like, what
Mhm.
kind of, how has your experience been so far? Like, have you experienced any kind of judgment, or like maybe people not giving you the credit, that they might have if you were like male and older? I'm just curious, like what, yeah, that experience has been like. This episode is sponsored by nobody. That's right, nobody. So if you could be kind enough to hit that subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me.
My experience has been varied, and I feel like it's hard to say, like sometimes people will associate an experience that this is how the company is. I just feel like at any large organization, you can call it ABCD, there's going to be people, and people have grown up in different circumstances and they have different biases, and they might operate or project onto you in different ways. So, being like a young girl in the field and working in consulting, first of all, what is consulting? Like that's a question I get asked a lot too. And consulting is basically like we're problem solvers. So we're here to solve a problem that you, the client, might have. And specifically when I work in SAP consulting, it's a software. What we're doing is we're going to our clients, which are, large, big multinational clients most of the time. And what we do is we say, hey, here are some inefficiencies you have. Here are some gaps that we see, and here's how we can innovate. We can enhance your capabilities and transform your business so that you're more efficient and you're not doing redundant things or using legacy technology. So we're going in as an advisor and as an expert almost. And so what that has taught me so much, because one, I didn't come from a tech background. I studied business management, specifically retail management, and I was a marketing minor. So, and then I did my thesis afterwards too. So I wasn't exposed to tech when I was in university, and then jumping into a university into a technology-based career, I had to learn things just from scratch. And so I feel like the learning curve has been great, and I've some of the things that I've been able to pick up is like being resourceful. Like there, no one really has time in the corporate world to really hold your hand and show you how things are done. And especially when you're working on technology, which could take years to develop your learning and knowledge, it's up to you to be a resourceful person and figure things out on your own and think on your feet. So that's one of the skills that I've learned. And when it comes to my experiences at IBM as a company, and it's not just, again, like I don't want to just preface it to this company and this is how it's been like for me, but of course I've faced like, slight judgment. Like I can see that I'm different. Like when you think of professional, you think of like an older, typically Caucasian white male. You don't think of a young 20 something year old brown skinned woman in the space. And so just coming into these rooms and talking to clients and being so different from someone can sometimes it does like impact like your ability to deliver. Like, am I really qualified to be here? I when I was first, like in the first year of my career, I had those doubts, like, am I really supposed to be here? Am I really doing this? And I think now I've just learned to let kind of people underestimate you. Like it's okay if they think you can't do it, because guess what? You're gonna show up and you're gonna surprise them and you're gonna be the underdog. And it's great because it works in your favor, because they maybe their expectation of you was low, but you were able to over deliver and really, just show your skills and your strengths. And I just use that in my favor. Like if someone's going to like underestimate me, great. That means the level playing field for me is low, and the small things I do will probably blow your mind. So
You reference kind of your university experience. So it's a Ryerson, great
yeah,
location, good university.
yeah.
You did both your bachelor and master's there, and it seems like you're very involved. I would say like I was the opposite in terms of involvement. I was like maybe I picked and choose, but you were like very involved.
Mhm.
What made you kind of decide to get so involved? Because like you said, when you were younger, you're quite introverted. So like
Yeah.
was your evolution to like being a bit more extroverted already happening, or did this experience at Ryerson really help get you there?
It was my experience at Ryerson that changed me. And I remember being a first year, and it's a commuter school too, right? Majority of us are commuting to downtown core. And it's like I just felt so like bored. Like I'd go to school and then I'd come back home, and then I go to school and then I come back home. And it's just like, is this what I'm gonna do? Like I and like when you're walking through hallways, I see so many opportunities and so many students, and like some of them seem to be in like little groups and some of them are doing something. And like I just felt out of place, and I wanted to get my feet wet. I wanted to be a part of this ecosystem, see what it has to offer. And like opportunities would come, like we get emails, hey, do you want to run for student rep? Hey, do you want to do this? We're hiring this, we're looking for a student group, da da da. And I was like, you know what, like as the introvert I am, I remember first year was like, okay, none of my friends are doing it, I don't want to do it. Like, it's scary. It's like, I don't know, like what am I going to experience or expect? I have no idea. So I and I, after doing that, it just felt like very boring for me the first year of like kind of suppressing myself. Like it's something that I really wanted to do, but I just didn't feel comfortable doing. So I didn't take up the opportunity. And then next year, the second year came around, and I was like, no, like I'm just gonna do it and let's see where this goes. And slowly but surely, I started to get my feet wet and get involved in different student groups and case competitions and activities. And then and you build your confidence. I feel like when we're afraid of the unknown, we don't go forward. We just take a step back. And I think my time at Ryerson kind of helped me get comfortable with uncomfortable things. I was just doing so many different things that made me feel so out of place. And in hindsight, that's what helped me kind of become more break out of my shell, break out of the shell that I had. Yeah.
Have you found that, like, because I found when I was younger, I did a lot more, like I was very experimental, like I tried a bunch of things, I really packed my schedule. But as I've gotten older, 10 years older than you, I've got
Mhm.
to, I've really reduced kind of what I've taken on and being kind of hyper focused. Is that kind of the approach you're taking, or like is it still in the experimental phase? Like you're still like trying to, dabble in different things or just be part of different things for, the various reasons that you want to do that?
Yeah, I feel like I'm like age is like, like relative. Are you young? Are you old? I just feel like I have so much life and energy in me. I still want to explore and try new things. I feel like life is a big science experiment, and it's like, let's just try something. If it doesn't work out, at least I was open to a possibility of like a new outcome or something. And it's so much fun. Like right now is the time where I don't have dependents too much or don't have like, any like crazy mortgage bills or anything under my name. Like now is the time for me to really do different things and take as much risks as I can. And we all know like risks are one of the ways that we evolve. And I'm focused on evolving. It's something that I enjoy. Like I enjoy growing each year. When I look back at last year and this year and what's to come, it's like, wow, like I'm doing new things and I love that for me. Yeah.
Have you found that as you've kind of evolved, because as you said, it kind of just triggered a thought, but like in the sense that, the people you were friends with or had relationships with, like when you were in university, now that you're kind of, you've went through this, like, I guess because you did your master's as well, like 6, 7 years of evolving, now you've been
Yeah.
working. How have you found your relationships, like your friendships kind of evolving? Like, are you still friends with the same people, or have you found that because of you've evolved, kind of who you gravitate towards has also evolved?
There's a bit of both. So I do have some friends that I have a friend in high school that I'm still like very close. Like we've been friends for at least 13, 14, 15 years now. And she's always like that person, your safe haven where you can just talk and like because you grow up and you spent a decade together, it's like we've seen each other evolve together and we've almost like come to understand this is where this person's at, this is where I'm at, this is how I know to support her, this is how she knows how to support me. And we've spent so much time in school together that our relationship is really just anything could happen. We like there's times there are relationships where, you know, someone doesn't text back, you might feel a certain way. But like with friends that you've had for a long time, it's like it's no big deal. It's just and maybe this is from my evolution too. I'm not super attached. Like my friends are dependent on themselves for their happiness. It's not like we're depending on like, hey, I need to see you this weekend. Otherwise, like friendship cut. It's just like, you know, like this level of understanding and maturity where it's like, you're busy, let's connect next week. How are you? Let's do a phone check-in. And like we just go at each other's pace and take the person for where they're at. But with that evolution, I have had a lot of falling out and that's I think such a natural part of growing up as you become and evolve into a new person, a new version of you. The people that resonated with the old version of you will not be able to maybe comprehend or accept the new person you are because they've seen you as someone else. And I think it's okay. The problem is we always try to like make it work. And it's like it's okay if you really love someone and you really like want them to be happy, it's okay if you guys drift apart. That's it's not a no hard feelings. You're gonna find new people, new like opportunities, new relationships that add maybe more like value or meaning to your life. So like every friendship that I've had has helped me during that time that I was in that stage and it all serves a purpose at that time where I was. That's how I see it.
As you're speaking, I had a question, but I forgot now. But that was a great answer. So moving on to kind of, we talked about your career. We've kind of talked about your heavy involvement during like your university years at Ryerson. I want to get your side hustle, like I said, what you're doing is kind of helping job seekers kind of find or take that next step in their career by like reviewing their resume, kind of giving them advice. How did you get into how did you start doing this?
Oh man. So I think right now the way I project in the world is like, you know, super career, successful and all that. But before that, before this image, I was struggling when I was doing my master's. After my undergrad, I decided to do my master's because I loved the school. Like I loved being on campus. I loved the opportunities there. And I wanted to just challenge myself. I was like, oh, it's like doing a fifth year. Let's do it. Like that's how simple I took it. And I just wanted to do something different. But while I was taking on that challenge, the next course and is really finding and landing a career after school. And so I think I struggled there a lot because I was someone that was super involved in so many different things. And now I had to use a different side of me or a different brain or a different skill set. I needed a different skill set to be able to sell myself and network and really land a job. It's not whatever you learn in school is really it's valuable, but I feel like when you're applying for a role or for when you're trying to land that next job, there's like a certain skill set that you need. And it started off with like having a really poor resume to then like working on a cover letter to then learning the value of networking. And I feel like that was one of the biggest reasons that I landed my job today. It's I had to learn the hard way. And then once I landed the role, I was like, you know what? I can't believe I did it. Like, this is amazing. And I feel like I feel like I know how to do it, but let's just play it out. Maybe I'll be able to test it again. And surely enough, one of my dear friends came up to me and she said, hey, like, I'm graduating now and I'd like to like apply to IBM. Like, could you help me? And I was like, okay, let me walk you through A to Z. This is exactly what I did. And surely enough, she was able to land the exact same role at the exact same company. And I was like, oh my God, we've cracked the code. Like this is how it's supposed to be done. And unfortunately, people don't teach you these things at school. And most of us were first generation children. So our parents are not working at massive corporations. They don't know how to navigate the politics that come with it. And It's a beautiful thing when you go through it and you experience it firsthand, and then you're able to help someone else navigate through that too. And so that's kind of where career coaching came from, just my firsthand experience of being able to figure out like a formula to this and sharing it with someone, and then realizing if I can help me and her, why don't I just offer it to other people who are out there that probably need the same help.
How
Yeah.
many clients or sessions, or like how many hours do you spend on career coaching?
Oh my God, I started in 2019 and this was during the pandemic. And like, I've just learned so much about like, it's like running a business almost. It's like me and myself, and I have to work with someone. And so I'd work 9 to 5, and then my schedule would be like, okay, 6 to 9, or yeah, 6 to 10. I'd be just doing like 2, 3 people career coaching sessions. And surely enough, I realized, okay, I am gonna burn out. I need to like take a step back. And so in 2020, like 2021, the year after that, I decided, okay, let's do on weekends. Let's like work on the weekdays, and let's make weekends my career coaching like time that I dedicate to that. And I feel like just running your own business of some sort like teaches you like priorities, how to set priorities, and knowing like this time is for this time is for work, this time is for family, this time is for friends, and just having a system so you're balanced.
Are you like ever tempted, or like would you consider in the future like ever doing this full time, or is this kind of a great mix that you have right now in terms of what you're doing with IBM versus, the not just the money, but just the pleasure of kind of helping people navigate their careers? Did you know that every time you left a 5 out of 5 review for this podcast, a Tamil parent lets their child pursue a career in the creative arts? Okay, that's probably not true, but if there's a chance that it is, do you really want to jinx it? Leave a review. Do it for the young creative in you.
Yeah, I think it's right now it's just a pleasure, right? Like when people message me and say, hey, like I landed the job, or hey, like thank you so much, like I got the interview, or I got this placement, I got the role. It's just like, oh my God, like we did it. Like your life, your income, your situation has just drastically improved, and it just took maybe 1 or 2 sessions, and like you're changing lives. So that kind of impact is so it makes me so fulfilled, and that's something that I feel like I'll always be doing. And I'm just someone that personally, like I like to try new things. I just they take things as like an experiment. Let's go with it. And this was an experiment. Like let's do career coaching. Let's see how it goes. And it became like a very big thing in the community. And now it's like, okay, I like this experiment. Maybe I could scale up. Maybe I could collaborate. Maybe I could transform it in a different way. Maybe that could also involve into a different project. Like there's just so many ways to go about it. And I'm just following like the cookie crumbs as they come. That's really it.
How are people finding you? Like I know initially like some people were going to, but are you like actively marketing this, or is it just word of mouth?
His pure word of mouth. I've never put a ad up or a website up. It's just purely me on social media and word of mouth. And people say, I know Shanghavy, you should go to her. Or they see my story and they're like, okay, she's helped her. Like, let me reach out to her. And it's this whole thing has been word of mouth. So it only makes me think like if I was to really market it, I'm sure it'd be a lot of demand. And it's like it's interesting. Do I want to go this way? Maybe I want to do something else. But it's the opportunities are endless, and I'm just letting them come to me.
That's amazing. You hinted at this earlier, like networking. I
Yeah,
have a negative connotation of like the word networking. Like I'm more,
yeah.
I call it relationship building. Because I feel
Ah,
like
okay.
networking just seems very like, I think of like my MBA days where like it's like there are these like networking events. So it's like I feel like everyone's going there to extract value from others, but really when you're networking, you're really actually relationship building, right? You're like trying to create value,
Yeah.
and hopefully you get some value back. But I try to go in with like, hey, let's just build value, and if I get value back, great. If I don't, cool, I gave value, and I get pleasure from that too. So how do you go about building your network, or relationship building? And yeah.
I think the number one thing is to have is like a curiosity. So when I go into rooms, it's just like, hey, I want to meet you. I want to get to know you. Like, forget about networking. Like, I completely understand. There's like this weird salesy like connotation to it, which is uncomfortable. But just think of it like meeting someone like on the road, or seeing someone on the street, and it's like, hey, what's your name? What do you do? How old are you? What are your hobbies? It's so natural for humans to want to connect with someone else and to get to know someone and to build a relationship, exactly like you said. And I love that word, relationship building. So that's like the best way to approach it. And it's just valuable when you do it with the in a career setting, because it opens so many doors. And for me, like I went on LinkedIn and I sent 100 messages to like professionals working in different industries, in the banking industry and the consulting industry, and I received two competitive offers, one for one of the big banks, big grad rotational program that they had, and my current role today. And it was purely through networking. I reached out to an alumni who then told me like to reach out to his colleagues, who then reviewed my resume, who recommended me to the recruiter, and then I got the offer and the interview. Similarly with IBM too, like I reached out to a partner and I was like, oh my God, like what are the chances like some partner is going to reply back to me? Like if he replies, great. If he doesn't, who cares? There's more on LinkedIn. And I was so surprised because he replied and he's like, hey, like sure, if you want to meet for coffee, let's go. And before the pandemic, like I was like commuting downtown and like buying, it was so much more harder then than it is now. But it was fun, and I just had a conversation with them, and I'm making it seem like it was so easy, but really like I went through multiple coffee chats, like failed at like coffee chats. Some went really bad, some like so embarrassed, and I slowly just picked up some like some ways to just conversate and have conversations and talk to people, questions to ask. And then once I picked that up, I was just ready for this conversation when the partner replied. Had a great conversation with them, and I remember that day he comes back and he emailed the head recruiter with my email saying, hey, I think we should add her to the roster. And that's kind of what pushed me up the ladder. Had I not done that, I would have just been like one number in the applicant tracking system online, and my chances would have been very slim. So networking is just fun because one, you get to meet people, you get to learn about their lived experiences, and two, maybe like the bonus is there's value, maybe there's some value that you guys can share. Great, like you never know. And it's just wild too. Maybe in that moment you might not receive the value, but 5 years down the line they'll remember you and they'll reach out to you. And that's happened to me multiple times where someone's reached out to me and go, hey, I remember you did this, would you be interested in something like this? And it's just making friends.
Like you said, you never really had someone to help you steer kind of the ship in the right direction initially. Now you kind of figured it out and you kind of mentoring others. So for yourself, do you have mentors? And like, how does one get a mentor?
I feel like there are mentors at work. So like in my corporate world, in the work that I do, like I have my coach and we're always like setting goals and we're talking about, okay, promotion. This is something that I want to do. Let's talk about this. What do I need to do? Let's work backwards. And just having my coach, and not only my coach, but other people of different levels give you different insights, gives you like a full rounded picture of here's the blueprint, here's what you didn't think of, here's what you should consider, and this is how you can prep yourself for success. So I feel like mentorship, especially in the career world, is so important. But just outside of the career world and just as a holistic individual person, like there are so many figures that are change makers, creating a lot of impact in our world. And like some of the names that really resonate with me are like, for example, I've Bozoma St. John. She is a powerhouse. She's a C-suite executive and formerly at Netflix and Uber and a whole bunch of other massive corporations. And like even today, like I follow her on Insta, and she posted like she has a daughter, she's a mother, and for Christmas, what she made her daughter do was prepare a slide deck on what she wants for Christmas and why she deserves it, and her sales pitch essentially. And it was just fascinating to me. I'm like, if I grew up under those circumstances, I don't know where I'd be right now. But it's just they think differently, their approach and the things that they value. It just blows my mind and it inspires me. And that's one thing I like about her. There's another person, a creator online that I enjoy. Her name's Corporate Natalie. Amazing. Like it went from like a consultant to a C-suite marketing executive, all because of the content that she's created as a digital creator on social media. And she makes like funny skits about like work from home and all the like nuances and hilarious things that we all think of, but no one really likes to say. And it turned out that her company found out about it, and they offered her a position to be an executive in their marketing team. And so it's just wild how like you would have never thought like one TikTok could lead to a promotion. Like it's just it's so inspiring to see how people are creating new paths and opportunities, and I just love receiving inspiration and from them.
As you're talking, I gotta show you, so this book
Oh.
here, you probably can't read it,
Yeah.
but it says, it's called The Family Board Meeting.
Oh.
And it's exactly similar to the woman
So
that you
much.
mentioned. I follow her as well, but this is from like somebody else, just in terms of like that's an example of like what you would do here, but it's really connecting with your kids and having like monthly or quarterly family meetings, and you treat your family like a business unit in the sense that, hey, what's everyone's goals? How can we help you get there? What resources do you need? So it's almost like, hey, like if I'm the child, I can be like, hey, you know what, I'd love to be, I want to get to be a grandmaster in chess. I need to get chess lessons or like whatever it is, right? So I haven't got through it yet, but it's like it's just when you said it, I just had to bring
That
that
is
up.
so exciting. Like I'm interested to read about that. It's just amazing because like, yeah, I'm like, I don't have children, but I'm also a child. And it's like, like maybe how can I approach things? Maybe I can start a change. Maybe I can be the change in my family unit and make things a little different. So it's very interesting.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. A favorite thing of mine is, you talked about like failure or like just evolving, but evolving comes from failing and just like learning lessons. So for you, what's been like a learning lesson or failure you've experienced, I don't know, the last few years? And like, what did you learn from that experience?
So many failures. It's so hard to pick one. um, but I feel like one that a lot of people resonate with is with the failing to land a job. There's so much rejections I went through that you don't see now, but the amount of times I've been rejected by companies has been brutal. And man, I'm glad it happened that way because now when I reach out to people, I can relate with them so much better. Had I gone straight from school to a job, I would not have been able to relate to people that are like struggling to find work and don't know what to do. It's because I failed and I struggled that now I'm able to add value and help someone else. So every experience in the grand scheme of things is beneficial towards your growth. That's my approach on it. And sometimes we can attach ourselves to that one isolated experience. And I know like I'm coaching people too, and they're like, oh, I didn't get it, who knows, maybe next time. And I feel the defeat, the sense of defeat, which is okay. But it's always like I'm always trying to like detach from that small my minuscule experience and look at it from the big picture. Like, what is this setting me up for? And getting curious about it. Like, why did I fail? What is coming my way? What is this preparing me for in the future? And I feel like that approach has just made it so much more easier to like be okay with failing, things not working out the way it is. It's like, great. I've learned something from this and I'm gonna run with it. Yeah.
How connected do you feel to your Tamil identity?
I think I'm very connected. Like I'm proud of it, but it's also interesting too because I wouldn't like when you say Tamil identity, it's so different for everyone, right? Like some people have a different criteria. Like, for maybe like someone else, it might be how well do you speak the language, how proficient are you, can you read, write, and say tirukkural, like, like that's someone's criteria. Another person's criteria could be like, it's your ability to talk about the history and the culture and the tradition. So it's so subjective, like what is identity first of all, and then Tamil identity, how do we define that? But I resonate with being Tamil because it's just the more and more I go closer to it and the more and more I learn about it, the more and more I just fall in love with it. Like it's so beautiful, like from my family to who I am today, to the way I think, the way I perceive things. Like there that Tamilness that I have in me is it creates a perception in the way I look at things and interact with other people too. I'm more connected in certain ways. I can empathize with different people. For example, like coming from Sri Lanka and being a part of the diaspora community, I can relate to another community that is struggling in the same sense too and fighting for independent rights. Like now I get the struggle. It's a refugee struggle. It's different. We're not. It's created so much more understanding, and the way I look at the world is different. So it does resonate with me deeply, and I just love the person I am through my Tamil culture.
And what would you tell your 16-year-old self if you had a chance to sit with her, after going through a time machine? Same knowledge, everything you have today. What would you
Yeah.
tell her?
When I was 16, I was in high school and I was the new girl in high school because we moved. And my high school had a 7-8 school, so everyone knew each other, and I was like fresh into this like world of cliques, and it was so hard. It was so hard. I just want to give her a hug and say you did well. Like, um, you you were shy, and I know that you were afraid to like kind of like show your true colors and be yourself. And maybe like instead of focusing on whether if other people will like you, maybe you should have thought about, do you like them? Do you really want to hang out with them? Like, are they really important in your life? And I wish that instead of trying to fit in, you just were exactly who you were. Like, you don't need to fit in. You were just so beautiful as the person you are, as the girl you are. And don't worry, because you're going to turn out just fine.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of high school. I think I was like a caterpillar, and then I became a butterfly in university. But I agree.
I love those stories. And I write letters actually. Like, journaling is something that I'm actively like building as a habit in my life. And like, I always talk back, like 5 years ago, you didn't know you'd be doing this, and this is what you're doing now. And I want you to really like congratulate yourself for going through all those things, because look at where you are today. And I think it's just important to connect to the different versions of yourselves and celebrate yourself, essentially, because I don't think people celebrate themselves as much as they should for the amount of things that we go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just because of how our society is kind of constructed, I think people are just, they don't take the time. I think I always hear like I'm too busy for this or that, but I think, like you said, I think journaling, just reflection in general, and however you do it is a very good exercise, because you don't want to kind of go through life and just kind of be like, how did I get here? Versus if you give your time to kind of reflect and think. Um, I'm I'm an ambivert, but I would say I skew towards slightly introverted. So I'm constantly
Mm,
kind of processing and reflecting. I observe and like listen more than I speak and say something. So no,
mhm,
it resonated with me what you said. Now, I guess looking forward from a legacy point of view,
mhm.
how would you want to be remembered by your friends and family? Money can be hard to come by, but here is a $100 opportunity for you. Join my free newsletter for free exclusive content and a free chance to win $100 when I hold special draws. Did I mention that it's free?
I want to be remembered as like a game changer, a disruptor, like someone who was purpose driven and intentional and always changed the game. Limitless. Yeah, limitless.
Okay, well, that's a good way to kind of segue into the final part of the podcast. It's a game that I like to
Okay.
call Creative Confessions. It's a speed round. So I'm going to
Yes.
say a bunch of statements. You're going to tell me the first thing that pops to mind. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Favorite Tamil food?
Like kotarati, I can't decide.
Something that scares you.
The dark.
Insecurity that you have.
Ooh, sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough.
Favorite
Mm.
TV show you're watching?
I'm not watching anything at the moment, but I'm reading.
What are you reading?
I'm reading a book called The Radical Awakening. I love it and I recommend it to everyone.
A place you're itching to travel to.
Dubai. I went there once and I want to go again.
A fellow Tamil creator you want to give a shout out to.
Oh, Madhu from London, UK.
Uh, Favorite childhood memory.
Childhood memory. Ooh. I feel like going to the park with my family.
Uh,
There's a park and we always go. We always walk around that park and it's just a happy time for me.
Something you like to do for fun outside of work.
I like to go on walks. I still go on walks. And I enjoy it. It's just so fun to like be in my thoughts, sometimes listen to a podcast, sometimes just listen to music. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I go for walks. I'll probably go for a walk after this actually. I do like 45 to an hour walk and I listen to a
Amazing.
podcast. I would
Yes,
highly
it's
recommend this
so good.
podcast. I recommend
Yes.
this podcast called The Tamil Creator.
That's the
Uh,
one to listen to.
Favorite movie of all time.
Favorite movie? I just saw one recently, and the name is slipping me, but it's about the movement for the name is slipping me. It's an activist that fought for the freedom of and the liberation of India. And he talked about his story to moving to UK and just creating a movement. And I'll have to get back to you on that. I just thought like 2 weeks ago with my family, and it just resonated with me.
A purchase you've made that you've splurged on recently in the last couple of years that you have no regret about?
My rice cooker. Yeah, I was doing it the hard way and it changed my life. I didn't realize how simple it was, how much time I saved.
Wait, how did you cook rice before?
You just boil it on the stove with water,
that's
and
what you
it's
did.
like,
Okay,
wow.
okay.
Yeah, and it's like, this is a little too much.
Pet peeve of yours?
Pet peeve of mine. When people take things for granted and they don't say thank you. Yeah.
Person, celebrity that you look up to?
Celebrity that I look up to.
Or just anybody, like a person. It doesn't have to be celebrity.
Something different, not Bazoma. I would say Selena right now. I was listening to Jay Shetty's podcast with On Purpose with Selena, and that resonated with me. So yeah.
If you knew that you were gonna die tomorrow, a regret that you would have?
I knew I was gonna die tomorrow. A regret that I would have that I did not finish my butter pecan, and I had one left. Yeah.
A person's whose life you'd want to experience for one day?
Ooh, these are great questions. Person's life that I want to experience for one day. I'm going to say my childhood star, Hilary Duff. I'd love to see how her life is right now.
Yeah, I think she's married to like a hockey player, and
yeah, and she has like 3 children, but she's still acting and doing like, I'm just so curious what she's doing right now.
A new belief, behavior, or habit that's improved your life?
Meditating. It's been a game changer.
You talked about Hilary Duff. I don't know. I'm stuck on that. Is one of my favorite movies. I think the only movie I liked of hers was their version of Cinderella. I forgot what it was called.
Oh yes, a princess story. No, a Cinderella story. Yes, and it's
I don't know, something. It was just like
favorite.
It's like a
classic.
I wouldn't tell people, but usually it's like my guilty pleasure. But like I don't know, whatever reason, I like that version of it. It was good.
I love it. I love that you love that movie too. I think I watched it 100 times.
A piece of advice, and finally, I guess, a piece of advice that you would give to your fellow aspiring Tamil creators out there.
Piece of advice that I give to my fellow inspiring Tamil creators out there. Just don't be afraid to show yourself, because I feel like cancel culture is so real and we're quick to like get shut down. But if your heart is in the right place, like good things will happen. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for jumping on the podcast. Like I said, I think you have an interesting story. I think people will resonate and kind of enjoy your story and just kind of learnings. For someone listening that's really resonated and kind of wants to connect with you, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Yes, you can reach out to me on various platforms. On Instagram, it's Shanghavy, Sangavii. LinkedIn, Shanghavy, a different spelling, but maybe we can put it in the notes or somewhere. And yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to jump on a chat and connect with people.
Awesome. And for those of you listening, appreciate you guys as always. Look forward to the next episode.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.